Part 1. Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson continues the story of Waxillium Ladrian in the evolving world of Scadrial, several months after the events of the Alloy of Law. Elendel remains a city in transition, shaped by rapid technological progress and growing social unrest. The divide between the wealthy elite and the struggling working class has become more pronounced, and political tensions are rising as different factions vie for influence. At the same time, the institutions meant to uphold order, law enforcement, the government, and the nobility, are increasingly strained by corruption, inefficiency, and competing interests. Waxillium Ladrian has now fully embraced his dual role as both a nobleman and a lawman. Having prevented the Vanisher's plot, he has gained a reputation as a defender of justice within the city. However, this position places him in a difficult situation. As a member of the nobility, he is expected to participate in political maneuvering and uphold the interests of his class. Yet his experiences in the roughs have shaped a more pragmatic and moral approach to justice, one that often conflicts with the priorities of Elendel's ruling elite. This tension defines much of Wax's internal struggle as the story begins. The political climate in Elendel is particularly volatile due to upcoming elections that will determine the city's leadership. For the first time, the system is shifting toward broader representation, giving more voice to the growing population outside the traditional noble houses. This change is met with resistance from those who fear losing power, as well as skepticism from those who doubt that meaningful reform will occur. Protests and labor disputes have become more common, reflecting widespread dissatisfaction among the lower classes. Wax finds himself caught in the middle of these developments, as both a public figure and an enforcer of the law. Amid this unrest, a new and terrifying threat emerges. A mysterious figure known as the Bleeder. This individual is a Khandra, a shape-shifting being created in earlier eras, who has gone rogue and is committing a series of highly targeted murders. Unlike other Khandra, who are bound by strict rules and serve harmony, the god who now oversees the world, Bleeder appears to be acting independently. Her killings are precise and symbolic, targeting individuals connected to the city's governance and infrastructure. Each death sends shockwaves through Elendel, increasing fear and destabilizing an already fragile society. Wax is drawn into the investigation when he is asked to help track down the rogue Khandra. His unique abilities as a twinborn, combined with his experience as a lawman, make him one of the few individuals capable of confronting such a dangerous adversary. He is joined once again by his trusted partner Wayne, whose humor and unconventional methods provide both relief and critical support. Marasi Columns also returns, now working more formally within the constabulary. Her growth since the previous book is evident, as she takes on greater responsibility and demonstrates increased confidence in her abilities. The nature of the Bleeder's crimes quickly sets her apart from ordinary criminals. She does not simply kill, she manipulates situations to create maximum disruption. In one early incident, she interferes with a train's operations, causing chaos and nearly resulting in mass casualties. These actions suggest that her goal is not merely to eliminate specific targets, but to undermine the systems that keep Elendel functioning. This realization raises the stakes considerably, as it implies a broader plan that could have catastrophic consequences. As Wax begins to investigate, he encounters resistance from multiple fronts. The constabulary is wary of his involvement, given his status as a nobleman and his tendency to operate outside conventional procedures. Meanwhile, political leaders are more concerned with maintaining stability and protecting their own interests than with addressing the root causes of the crisis. This creates an environment in which Wax must navigate not only the physical dangers posed by the Bleeder, but also the bureaucratic and political obstacles that hinder his efforts. Complicating matters further is Wax's relationship with Harmony, the god formed from the combination of preservation and ruin. Unlike the distant deities of many worlds, Harmony communicates directly with Wax, guiding him and occasionally intervening in subtle ways. However, this relationship is not without tension. Wax struggles with the idea of being used as an instrument of divine will, particularly when the guidance he receives is vague or morally ambiguous. The existence of the Bleeder, a Khandra seemingly acting against Harmony's authority, raises troubling questions about the limits of his control and the nature of free will. Steris Harms continues to play a significant role in Wax's life, now as his fiancée. While their relationship remains largely practical, it has grown more comfortable and supportive over time. Steris's meticulous planning proves useful in managing the logistical challenges that arise during the investigation, and her presence provides Wax with a sense of stability amid the chaos. Her character continues to develop, revealing a quiet strength and adaptability that contrast with her initially rigid demeanor. As the first part of the novel unfolds, the mystery surrounding the Bleeder deepens. Each new clue raises more questions, suggesting that her actions are part of a carefully orchestrated plan rather than random acts of violence. Wax's pursuit of the rogue Khandra becomes increasingly urgent as the potential consequences of her actions grow more severe. At the same time, the broader context of political unrest and social inequality adds complexity to the narrative, ensuring that the conflict is not limited to a simple battle between good and evil. This opening section establishes the central tensions of Shadows of Self, the struggle between order and chaos, the challenges of governance in a changing society, and the moral dilemmas faced by those tasked with enforcing the law. Wax's journey is once again defined by his efforts to reconcile his personal values with the demands of the world around him, setting the stage for a story that is as much about internal conflict as it is about external threats. Part 2. As Waxillium Ladrian deepens his investigation into the rogue Khandra known as Bleeder, the complexity of the situation becomes increasingly apparent. What initially seemed like a series of calculated assassinations soon reveals itself to be part of a broader effort to destabilize Elendel at a critical political moment. The upcoming elections, already a source of tension, now serve as a backdrop for escalating fear and uncertainty. Each of Bleeder's actions appears designed not only to eliminate key individuals, but also to erode public confidence in the systems meant to maintain order. Wax, Wayne, and Marasi begin piecing together the pattern behind the murders, focusing on the victims' connections to governance and infrastructure. Many of those targeted hold positions that influence the balance of power in the city, suggesting that Bleeder is attempting to manipulate the outcome of the political transition. This realization raises the stakes significantly, as it implies that her actions could alter the future of Elendel in profound ways. Marasi's role in the investigation becomes increasingly important during this phase. Now working within the constabulary, she has access to official records and resources that allow her to analyze the broader implications of the killings. Her methodical approach helps identify inconsistencies and connections that others might overlook. Through her efforts, the group begins to understand that Bleeder is not acting randomly, but rather following a deliberate strategy aimed at maximizing disruption. Meanwhile, Wayne continues to operate on the fringes, using his talent for disguise and infiltration to gather information from less formal sources. His interactions with informants and members of the underworld provide valuable insights into the rumors and fears spreading throughout the city. These perspectives highlight how deeply Bleeder's actions are affecting ordinary citizens, many of whom feel increasingly vulnerable as the violence escalates. Wayne's ability to navigate these environments adds an important dimension to the investigation, complementing the more structured efforts of Wax and Marassi. One of the most troubling aspects of the case is Bleeder's apparent ability to evade detection. As a Khandra, she can assume the identity of nearly anyone, making it difficult to determine who can be trusted. This creates an atmosphere of paranoia, as even close allies could potentially be compromised. Wax becomes acutely aware of this danger, recognizing that traditional investigative methods may not be sufficient against such an adversary. The uncertainty surrounding Bleeder's identity forces the group to question their assumptions and proceed with extreme caution. Wax's connection to Harmony becomes more strained as the investigation progresses. Although Harmony provides occasional guidance, his inability or unwillingness to directly intervene against Bleeder raises significant concerns. Wax learns that Bleeder has somehow altered herself, removing one of the spikes that normally bind Khandra to Harmony's will. This act of defiance grants her a degree of independence that sets her apart from others of her kind. It also suggests that she may be receiving influence from another source, one that operates beyond Harmony's control. This revelation introduces a deeper layer of mystery and unease. If Bleeder is being guided or manipulated by another force, it implies the presence of a hidden power operating within the world. Wax struggles to reconcile this possibility with his understanding of Harmony's role as a god. The idea that Harmony might not be fully in control challenges Wax's faith and raises questions about the nature of divine authority. This internal conflict adds emotional weight to the investigation, as Wax must navigate not only external threats, but also his own doubts. The tension escalates further when Bleeder orchestrates a particularly devastating attack that targets a public event. By exploiting vulnerabilities in the city's infrastructure, she creates a situation that results in widespread panic and loss of life. This incident demonstrates her ability to think on a large scale, using her unique capabilities to manipulate events in ways that have far-reaching consequences. For Wax and his allies, it becomes clear that they are dealing with an enemy who is both highly intelligent and utterly ruthless. In response to this growing threat, Wax adopts a more aggressive approach. He begins to anticipate Bleeder's moves, attempting to predict her next target based on the patterns they have identified. This strategy requires him to think like his adversary, considering not only her immediate objectives, but also her broader goals. The process is both intellectually demanding and morally challenging, as it forces Wax to confront the darker aspects of human and Khandra behavior. Steris continues to provide support in unexpected ways, using her organizational skills to manage the logistics of their efforts. Her detailed contingency plans prove invaluable as the situation becomes more chaotic, allowing the group to respond quickly to new developments. Although she remains largely removed from the direct action, her contributions underscore the importance of preparation and foresight in dealing with complex problems. As the investigation advances, Wax and his companions come closer to identifying Bleeder's ultimate objective. The pattern of her actions suggests that she is building toward a decisive moment, one that will have significant political and social repercussions. This realization creates a sense of urgency as the group understands that they may have only a limited window of time to stop her. By the end of this section, the narrative has intensified considerably. The rogue Khandra has proven herself to be a formidable and unpredictable adversary, capable of striking at the heart of Elendil's stability. Wax, Wayne, and Marasi are making progress, but each discovery reveals new layers of complexity and danger. At the same time, Wax's growing doubts about harmony and the possibility of external influence add a deeper dimension to the story, hinting at larger forces at work. The stage is now set for a confrontation that will test not only the characters' abilities, but also their beliefs about trust, authority, and the nature of control. As Bleeder's plan moves closer to fruition, the stakes continue to rise, driving the story toward an increasingly intense and uncertain future. Part 3. As Waxillium Ladrian and his allies push further into the mystery of the rogue Kandra, the investigation takes on a more personal and unsettling dimension. The realization that Bleeder can assume any identity creates a pervasive sense of unease, forcing Wax, Wayne, and Marasi to question every interaction. Trust becomes a fragile commodity, and even routine encounters are tinged with suspicion. This growing paranoia reflects the broader instability within Elendil, where fear and uncertainty are beginning to undermine the social fabric. The group's efforts to predict Bleeder's next move lead them to focus on individuals whose positions could influence the outcome of the upcoming elections. By analyzing her previous targets, Marasi identifies a pattern suggesting that Bleeder is systematically removing or manipulating key figures to shape the political landscape. This strategy reveals a level of foresight that goes beyond simple chaos. Bleeder is not merely disrupting the system, but attempting to control its evolution. During this phase of the story, Wax's relationship with Harmony becomes increasingly strained. The guidance he receives is inconsistent, and at times it feels deliberately obscured. Harmony admits that his ability to act directly is limited, particularly when it comes to Bleeder, whose altered nature makes her resistant to his influence. This admission shakes Wax's confidence, as it challenges the assumption that Harmony is an all-powerful and benevolent force. Instead, Wax is confronted with the reality that even a god may be constrained by competing forces and difficult choices. These doubts are compounded when Wax learns more about the nature of Kandra and the spikes that grant them sentience and bind them to Harmony's will. Bleeder's decision to remove one of her spikes represents not only an act of rebellion, but also a transformation that grants her a degree of autonomy unknown to other Kandra. However, this freedom comes at a cost. Without Harmony's stabilizing influence, Bleeder's mind appears to be deteriorating, leading to increasingly erratic and violent behavior. This duality, freedom paired with instability, becomes a key aspect of her character. Wayne's contributions remain vital as the investigation grows more dangerous. His ability to blend into different social environments allows him to gather information that would otherwise remain inaccessible. At the same time, his humor and irreverence provide a counterbalance to the mounting tension. However, even Wayne begins to feel the weight of the situation, as the stakes become clearer and the consequences of failure more severe. His loyalty to Wax and Marasi drives him to take greater risks, highlighting the strength of their partnership. Marasi, meanwhile, continues to grow into her role as a capable investigator. Her work within the constabulary gives her a broader perspective on the impact of Bleeder's actions, particularly on the city's most vulnerable populations. She becomes increasingly aware that the political struggles of Elendil are not abstract concepts, but forces that directly affect the lives of ordinary people. This understanding deepens her commitment to stopping Bleeder, as she recognizes the potential for even greater harm if the situation is allowed to escalate. A significant breakthrough occurs when Wax and his companions uncover evidence linking Bleeder to specific locations and events tied to the city's governance. This discovery allows them to narrow their focus, bringing them closer to identifying her immediate objectives. However, it also reveals the extent of her infiltration, suggesting that she has been operating within the city's power structures for some time. The realization that Bleeder may have assumed the identities of influential figures raises the possibility that she has already shaped key decisions from within. This leads to a series of tense confrontations as Wax attempts to verify the identities of those around him. The uncertainty surrounding Bleeder's whereabouts forces him to rely on intuition and incomplete information, increasing the risk of mistakes. In one particularly fraught encounter, Wax suspects that a trusted individual may have been replaced, only to discover that his suspicions are unfounded. Moments like this underscore the psychological toll of the investigation, as the constant need for vigilance begins to erode confidence and clarity. As the narrative progresses, Bleeder's actions become more extreme. Her attacks grow bolder, targeting not only individuals but also critical systems within the city. These acts of sabotage are designed to amplify fear and create the impression that no one is safe. The cumulative effect is a city on the brink of panic, where the line between order and chaos becomes increasingly blurred. For Wax, this escalation reinforces the urgency of stopping her before the situation spirals out of control. The ideological dimension of the conflict also becomes more pronounced. Through fragments of information and indirect encounters, Wax begins to piece together Bleeder's motivations. Unlike Miles' 100 Lives, whose actions were driven by a clear, if extreme, philosophy, Bleeder's goals are more difficult to define. Her desire for freedom from Harmony's control is evident, but the means by which she pursues it suggest a deeper instability. This makes her both unpredictable and deeply dangerous, as her actions are not always guided by rational considerations. At the same time, hints begin to emerge that Bleeder may not be acting entirely of her own volition. Subtle inconsistencies in her behavior, combined with the nature of her transformation, suggest the possibility of external influence. This possibility ties back to Wax's earlier concerns about forces beyond Harmony's control, raising the stakes of the conflict even further. If Bleeder is being manipulated, then stopping her may not be enough to address the underlying threat. By the end of Part 3, the story has reached a critical point. Wax and his allies have made significant progress in understanding their enemy, but each revelation has only deepened the mystery. The combination of political intrigue, supernatural elements, and personal conflict creates a narrative that is both complex and intensely engaging. The sense of impending crisis continues to build, setting the stage for the decisive events to come. As Ellendale edges closer to chaos, Wax must confront not only the external threat posed by Bleeder, but also the internal challenges that define his role in this changing world. The path forward is uncertain, and the choices he makes will have consequences that extend far beyond the immediate conflict. Part 4. As the crisis in Ellendale intensifies, Waxillium Ladrian and his allies finally begin to close in on the rogue Kandra known as Bleeder. The mounting chaos in the city, fueled by political unrest, targeted assassinations, and infrastructure sabotage, reaches a tipping point. Public confidence in the government and constabulary is rapidly eroding, and the upcoming elections threaten to push the city into even greater instability. Against this volatile backdrop, Wax realizes that stopping Bleeder is no longer just about preventing further murders. It is about preserving the fragile balance that holds Ellendale together. A major breakthrough occurs when Wax uncovers Bleeder's true identity, or rather, her original one. She is revealed to be Palm, a Kandra who once worked closely with Wax during his time in the Roughs. More devastatingly, Palm is the woman Wax knew as Lessie, his former partner and lover, whose death had haunted him for years. This revelation is both shocking and deeply personal, reframing much of Wax's past and forcing him to confront the painful truth that someone he trusted and cared for has become the very enemy he now hunts. The emotional impact of this discovery is profound. Wax is forced to reconcile his memories of Lessie with the reality of Palm's current actions. What he once believed to be a tragic but straightforward loss is now revealed as part of a much larger and more manipulative design. Palm had been placed in his life deliberately, her role orchestrated by Harmony to guide and shape Wax into the person he would become. This revelation shatters Wax's trust, not only in his past, but also in Harmony, whose involvement raises serious ethical questions about the nature of divine intervention. Palm's motivations also become clearer as Wax learns more about her transformation. Her decision to remove one of her spikes granted her freedom from Harmony's direct control, but it also left her vulnerable to instability and outside influence. She has come to view Harmony not as a benevolent protector, but as a controlling force that denies true autonomy. Her actions, though extreme and destructive, are driven by a desire to break free from what she perceives as manipulation and coercion. This places her in direct opposition to Wax, who, despite his doubts, still believes in the possibility of a just and ordered system. The conflict between Wax and Palm is thus deeply personal as well as ideological. When they finally confront one another, their interactions are charged with emotion and history. Palm challenges Wax's beliefs, accusing him of being a pawn of Harmony and questioning whether his sense of justice is truly his own. Wax, in turn, struggles to reach the person he once knew, hoping that some part of Lessie still remains beneath the violence and instability. These exchanges add a tragic dimension to the story, emphasizing that this is not simply a battle between hero and villain, but a clash between two individuals shaped by the same forces in different ways. As the confrontation unfolds, it becomes evident that Palm is not entirely in control of herself. Her behavior is erratic, shifting between moments of clarity and episodes of intense aggression. This instability supports the growing suspicion that she is being influenced by an external force, one that operates beyond Harmony's reach. Wax begins to suspect the involvement of another shard, a godlike entity similar to Harmony, but with different intentions. This possibility raises the stakes significantly, suggesting that the events in Ellendale may be part of a much larger and more dangerous game. The final stages of the conflict take place across multiple locations, as Wax and his allies attempt to contain Palm while preventing further damage to the city. Wayne and Marassi play crucial roles in these efforts, coordinating with the constabulary and working to protect civilians caught in the chaos. Wayne's ingenuity and adaptability prove invaluable in managing the unpredictable nature of the situation, while Marassi's leadership and determination highlight how much she has grown since her earlier days as an observer. Wax's ultimate confrontation with Palm is both physically and emotionally intense. Her enhanced abilities, combined with her instability, make her an incredibly dangerous opponent. Wax is forced to use all of his skills and experience to keep up with her, while also grappling with the emotional weight of what he must do. The knowledge that he is facing someone he once loved makes every decision more difficult, blurring the line between duty and personal attachment. In the end, Wax is forced to make an impossible choice. Recognizing that Palm cannot be saved and that her actions will continue to endanger countless lives, he takes decisive action to stop her. The moment is tragic, marking the loss of both the woman he loved and the illusion of a simpler past. It is a defining moment for Wax, one that solidifies his role as someone who must make difficult decisions in the pursuit of a greater good. The aftermath of this confrontation leaves Wax deeply shaken. The revelations about Palm and Harmony have fundamentally altered his understanding of the world and his place within it. His faith in Harmony is no longer unquestioning, and he is forced to grapple with the idea that even a god's intentions can have unintended and harmful consequences. This shift in perspective adds a layer of complexity to his character, as he must now navigate a world in which certainty is elusive and trust must be earned rather than assumed. As this section concludes, the immediate threat posed by Palm has been neutralized, but the broader implications of her actions remain unresolved. The possibility of external influence and the limitations of Harmony's power suggest that greater challenges lie ahead. Wax and his allies have prevented the city from descending into complete chaos, but the cost has been high, and the questions raised by these events will continue to shape their futures. With the central conflict resolved but its consequences still unfolding, the story moves toward its conclusion, where the characters must come to terms with what they have lost, what they have learned, and what lies ahead in a world that is far more uncertain than they once believed. Part 5. In the wake of the devastating confrontation with Palm, Elendel begins the difficult process of recovery. Although the immediate threat has been eliminated, the damage, both physical and psychological, lingers. The city's infrastructure has been strained, its core shaken, and its systems tested in ways that reveal deep vulnerabilities. The recent violence, combined with the already volatile atmosphere surrounding the elections, leaves Elendel in a fragile state, where trust must be slowly rebuilt. The political consequences of the crisis are significant. The exposure of how close the city came to collapse intensifies debates about governance and reform. The elections proceed, but under a shadow, with citizens more aware than ever of the stakes involved. Calls for greater accountability grow louder, particularly regarding the roles of those in power. While no immediate transformation occurs, the events surrounding Palm act as a catalyst for change, pushing Elendel toward a more self-aware and potentially more equitable future. For Waxillium Ladrian, however, the resolution of the external conflict does little to ease his internal turmoil. The revelation that Palm, Lessie, had been placed in his life as part of Harmony's plan continues to weigh heavily on him. What once defined him as a man of clear purpose has been complicated by doubt and anger. Wax struggles to reconcile his sense of justice with the idea that his path may have been shaped by forces beyond his control. The notion that even his most personal experiences were influenced by divine intervention creates a lingering sense of betrayal. Wax's relationship with Harmony undergoes a profound shift as a result. While Harmony attempts to explain his actions, emphasizing the necessity of difficult choices in maintaining balance, Wax finds it increasingly difficult to accept these justifications. He begins to see Harmony not as an infallible guide, but as a being constrained by his own nature, torn between opposing forces and capable of making morally ambiguous decisions. This realization does not sever Wax's connection to Harmony, but it does redefine it, introducing a level of skepticism and independence that had not been present before. Despite this emotional upheaval, Wax does not retreat from his responsibilities. Instead, he emerges with a more nuanced understanding of his role. He recognizes that justice is not something that can be perfectly dictated by laws or divine will, but rather something that must be actively pursued, often in the face of uncertainty. This perspective allows him to move forward, even as he continues to grapple with the implications of what he has learned. The relationships between the central characters also evolve in meaningful ways. Steris Harms proves to be an essential source of stability for Wax during this period. Her practical nature and unwavering support help ground him as he processes the events he has endured. While their relationship remains unconventional, it grows stronger through shared experience and mutual respect. Steris's ability to adapt and provide structure in chaotic circumstances underscores her importance in Wax's life, not just as a partner in name, but as a true ally. Marasi Columns, meanwhile, steps further into her own as a capable and independent figure. Her contributions during the crisis have solidified her position within the constabulary, and she gains recognition for her intelligence and determination. Marasi's journey reflects the broader theme of societal change, as she represents a new generation willing to challenge traditional roles and expectations. Her relationship with Wax settles into one of mutual respect and friendship, free from the earlier tension of unspoken feelings. Wayne continues to serve as both a loyal companion and a source of emotional balance within the group. Though he often masks his deeper thoughts with humor, the events surrounding Palm affect him as well. His steadfast support for Wax highlights the strength of their bond, and his presence ensures that Wax is not left to face his struggles alone. Wayne's unique perspective and moral code remain a vital part of the team, providing insight that complements Wax's more serious approach. Beyond the immediate circle of characters, the broader implications of Palm's actions continue to unfold. The suggestion that she was influenced by an external force introduces a lingering sense of unease. Harmony himself acknowledges the existence of other powers, entities with their own agendas, hinting that the events in Elendel may be part of a larger and more complex conflict. This revelation expands the scope of the story, suggesting that the challenges facing Wax and his world are far from over. In this context, the concept of balance, central to Harmony's nature, takes on new meaning. The tension between order and chaos, control and freedom becomes more pronounced as the limitations of any single authority are revealed. Wax's experiences illustrate the difficulty of maintaining this balance, particularly in a world where competing forces constantly threaten to tip the scales. His journey reflects the broader struggle of a society in transition, seeking stability while adapting to change. As the novel draws to a close, there is a sense of cautious forward movement. The immediate dangers have been addressed, but the lessons learned leave a lasting impact on both the characters and the world they inhabit. Wax, though deeply affected by his experiences, is more determined than ever to pursue justice on his own terms. His willingness to question authority, including that of Harmony, marks a significant evolution in his character, positioning him as a more independent and thoughtful figure. Ultimately, Shadows of Self concludes on a note that is both somber and hopeful. The losses endured by the characters, particularly Wax, serve as a reminder of the cost of confronting difficult truths. At the same time, the resilience they demonstrate suggests that growth and progress are possible, even in the face of uncertainty. The story leaves readers with a sense that the world of Scadrial is entering a new phase, one defined by greater complexity, deeper challenges, and the potential for meaningful change. This final section brings the narrative full circle, emphasizing the themes of identity, trust, and the pursuit of justice in an imperfect world. While many questions remain unanswered, they serve to propel the story forward, setting the stage for the next chapter in Wax's journey and the continuing evolution of the society he strives to protect.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos.